Two.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm BDLM, coming with my buddy J4Y, bringing you episode 68 of the Stood on a Man podcast. The streak starts again. I did it.
He did it, guys.
I was on episode number 136. We get to start rolling a counter of how many times in a row if I beat the old consecutive record. Of how many times I number the episode correctly. So, yes, 68. Welcome J4Y. I didn't even finish the intro. Whatever. How you doing, man?
Great. Thanks. I'm glad we're on episode 68 tonight. 69 would just been too out there. We weren't ready for that one yet. So, pull it back to 68. Doing good. It's actually warmer this week than it's been in like a week or so. So it's been a good week weather-wise. The real crummy part is we all filled up on a ton of turkey, and I'm still digesting it, I think, from Thanksgiving. So there's a lot of issues going on here, but maybe I'll be able to recover by the end of this week.
There was napping to be done. Extensive napping had to be accomplished.
Oh, it's scheduled. You need to schedule it, because if you just try to do it willy-nilly, you're not going to get the cycle properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, instead of hibernating, human beings, we just sleep for the day after Thanksgiving, and then that's it. You're caught up. Good. Perfect. In non-turkey related news, we have
that?
Dreamleague. Yes,
Oh,
we do.
jeez. Okay.
We have the rundown of the episode, which is gonna touch on a couple things. One of which we've touched on a couple times, and this is gonna be like the definitive end-all Hand of Midas discussion. Because Dreamleague was actually over this past weekend, and we forgot to mention it last week that it was coming up. But there were actually a lot of great interviews with the players. There were some really great quotable quotes from people as they would come from their games and come up onto the stage with the casters. And so we just kind of wanted to finish that off once and for all, at least for now. Once and for all for now. And then also just touch on some other things from that, and then roll into the almost finale of my 100 Games of Venomancer. It's happened a lot faster, actually, than I thought it would. I was definitely a little tired of the guy, maybe 20 games in. But I'm on game 92. 92 games played with a 67% win rate. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later and my musings on the hero. But yeah, man, Dreamleague just went on. Did you get to watch much of it? What were your thoughts?
I unfortunately was pretty crazy busy this past weekend. I did get to watch. I went back and watched the grand finals of it, and I kind of caught a glimpse here and there of what happened previously, and of course I saw the brackets, so got a taste for that, I guess. But all around, well, DreamHack's always a great event. Let's be honest. I mean, I've watched it pretty much consistently every year up to this point. Usually for Dota 2, but in times other games as well. And it's one of those events you just really want to go to. You aspire to be there with them. Like when I was younger, it was so I could participate in the LAN part of it, because I'm like, oh, I love LANing, and I could go there and drink soda and energy drinks and just play Dota or Warcraft or whatever the hell I'm playing at my current age, and throw a hoop down the dirt road. I don't know what the hell computer game that is, but I don't know. I think it's a great event, and they've done a great job. They keep improving their performance every year. Like I just remember the initial Dota 2 one where it was basically just Toby up there, and they had this tiny little pathetic excuse for a floor. There was 30 fold-out chairs. It was just having Waga or some pro player, and they've really upped it. And you can tell that they've decided to increase their performance here.
Yeah, I mean, there were some things I liked about it. There were some things I didn't like. I guess to start with the bad, they had this sound issue that kept going on throughout the entire thing. That was just a little obnoxious to have to listen to, and they kept mentioning it too, which just made it worse. Whatever. And then Perion Flax, he was a cool dude. He was fun to have on there, but he wound up asking more questions than contributing. He was fun to have there. He was he had some nice back and forth with some of the other people up on the main stage, but it was a lot of just him and Draskell explaining things to him of why things are a certain way.
Perion Flax is someone you interview with, or someone you maybe have on a couch at MLG where they had the couch 5 people talking or something. Yeah, have him there. Don't have him in the middle of a game where he really doesn't contribute, like you said, pretty much anything useful to players when they're trying to observe. And I know it's maybe they're trying to break out the meta, the caster meta of color commentator and shoutcaster, but I personally am a fan of the formula. I think it works well, and let's not shake it up too much.
Yeah, I mean, but there were some really great things too that they did in this format. We talked about this a little bit last week too, of just like when these organizations will sort of go the extra mile to try and make the production value even higher. And when you looked at the draft for a lot of the games, you had polls going on. You had, when we talked about last week, how Beyond the Summit, they started doing like stickers or like magnets on the Dota map so that they could put up heroes where they thought they were going to be. And there's this nice animated map placing the heroes on there, showing you where the casters thought they were going to be. And then there were player versus player, like matchups, like comparing the stats. There were these hero triangles, which would be like, these 3 heroes have been picked. These are the win rates between the 2, and then this is the win rate of the 3 heroes together, which was really neat and something that I hadn't really seen much of before. So it was nice that they kept upping the production value, and I really appreciated that. And the best part for me was just that Fnatic did awesome. Like, this is a team that you and me have sort of liked, I think, since they jumped into Dota 2, because we followed them in Heroes of the North as well, and it was cool to get to see them. And they were familiar faces, familiar names, and we knew what they were capable of. And it was just great to get to see them in this tournament. They didn't win it. Spoiler alert.
Great after you say it. That's good.
They take second place, but I was just like psyched to see them up in this major tournament, putting on a good show. Yeah,
they made it all the way through the winner bracket. Didn't lose any series until the final. I mean, they 2-1 Alliance. They 3-0'd Na'Vi in the winners finals. They really did put on quite a show, and they pulled out. I mean, most of their strategies were within the meta, but still they played some Wisp Tiny combos. They played some different heroes here and there. Apparently, a rush strat one game where there's kind of an all-in with their draft, and they still end up pulling off a win. I mean, those are the kind of things that just make it that much more exciting. And when it's successful, it's 10 times better.
Yeah, and that was the cool thing too, because I mean, when we think about Alliance or Na'Vi or whatever, and we think about some of the like trademark heroes or trademark strategies, you kind of know what kind of game you're getting most of the time with Na'Vi. You know that Enchantress is going to be a big hero if all the chips are on the table. The heroes that Admiral Bulldog can play. But then you go into this tournament and you just like, I think the predominant thing was like, oh man, Fnatic IO play. Like, and what they were able to do with the IO Tiny combinations, able to just clear out a lane before Na'Vi could like destroy the tier 3 tower in a base race. They did a really great job, and they seemed pretty well coordinated for the most part.
Apparently there were a lot of bans on Hani's Invoker throughout as well, and when you ban a hero like Invoker, who's not generally meta prevalent, it leaves picks open, and it lets them be more comfortable and more relaxed in their draft, and lets them maybe pick up someone you wouldn't have normally wanted them to get. So it's kind of nice when the player is so respected on a hero that they have to use a ban just for that. Kind of like Sing Sing Morana, same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, I think, also the thing with the IO as well. Like, that's not something that's automatically getting banned all the time. And so just that they have these heroes that teams are just like, well, 2 of our bans are going to be against Hani, or they're going to be against the Fnatic strong strategy. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And Hani said it himself in one of the interviews that we're going to talk about. He was like, it's such an advantage when you have teams that feel like they have to ban certain things against you, because that frees up a lot of picks that are still awesome, or still strong in general, whether or not they're your strongest strategy or not.
Right. Exactly. One hero that wasn't going to get banned for Fnatic was Sand King, I think we can safely say. Not No-Tail's strongest hero. If you haven't seen the interview where 2GD just basically rips No-Tail a new one about his... I think one of the quotes he said is, you do know that you have to cast his stun and hit him in order to be successful with that hero. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty familiar with how the hero works. And they asked him, I believe, also, like, so what was the team chat like when you missed those initial stuns? He's like, awkward silence. Generally just awkward silence. Maybe I'd say something about lag, but mostly awkward silence.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. They got all the help they could. I mean, Darude was even blaring Sandstorm while
God.
there was a Sand King on the field. Like, you don't get much more help than that. That was pretty sick. I mean, that's like, if the comeback had started when Sandstorm started, like, that would have been the greatest thing ever.
The best thing, yes.
4-man Burrow Strike to Epicenter. What up? Like, it ain't nothing. But maybe the headphones interfere with that. Was able to channel the Darude awesomeness from the StarCraft stage.
Yeah.
But there were actually a lot of great interviews that came out of this tournament. There are a bunch of them up on Join Dota actually, but there were, I think, just a lot of questions to players about Hand of Midas, and I wrote down some of the quotes because I thought they were pretty interesting. One, I believe Toby was talking to Loda about the current meta game and what he thought of it, and Loda was basically like, I don't like the Hand of Midas Necronomicon centered play, but it works, so we're gonna do it. You have Puppy who winds up saying, when you're losing, you Midas because you're behind and you need to make up the ground. When you're winning, you could start to lose, so get Midas. Kuroki actually happened to say that he actually hasn't built it once yet, because he still just doesn't know what to think about it.
Is that really true?
Yes.
Wow.
So he says, unless he is just a devilish gentleman and likes to throw out non-factual facts. But then I think the big one that we kind of wanted to focus on was the fact that Hani actually goes on a little bit of a monologue where he talks about, there's a good Midas and there's a bad Midas, and really sort of trying to see in the metagame if people are taking advantage of building the good Midases and avoiding the bad ones. I mean, did any of these quotes really? I think we had sort of talked about before that the Hani thing was sort of almost sort of common sense to you.
Yeah, it really rang true, and because I remember we have, like you said, this is going to be our hopefully end all, because we've kind of gotten into this conversation multiple times the past few episodes, but it really just rings true to what I've believed and what I honestly, and we've gone through it. You don't build it every game, or for every situation, and I would say every game, and that's why I'm actually kind of glad to hear that Kuroki, however you want to pronounce his name, has been. I mean, he maybe he could have built one here or there, but he's still trying to figure it out, and not to just blindly put your head down and say, accept that this is the meta, I have to do it. Really analyze, figure out why you're getting it. I do like it in some situations. The bad ones, though, and he gives a great example off the bat, something about, if your team's getting pushed in, and you need that team item, you need maybe a force staff, a mech, a pipe, I mean, these are kind of starting to get expensive, but drums even, something that will... even medallions, something that will help you immediately maybe turn around a team fight that you wouldn't have before. That's definitely not the time to get a Midas, because even though you'd like to invest into your late game because you're kind of behind, if you don't do something to help your team immediately, it may be too late, and you might not be able to get that return on investment that you really were looking for. We've probably calculated how long it takes to get your return on that, roughly. I don't have the numbers ahead of me, but I definitely know it at least takes probably 20 to 25 minutes, probably something around there, to really get good value on it. And the only real great thing about it, I think, is that it's really reliable gold, and especially for support, that's hard to do. They don't generally kill neutrals fast at all, and they don't really get time to farm because they're going around the map helping everyone out. So in that sense, that's why it's such a nice item, to give them both experience and gold in a flash. But yeah, there's definitely situations that they really need to, and that's why I always believe you should be making sure it's the right pick at the right time, and not just no matter what getting it.
Yeah, the thing that I also thought was interesting about what he was saying too was, he's like, the good ones are, you have absolute free farm, you can get it super quick. The likelihood of you losing so much ground that you can't recover is small. Then he was also like, if you're able to get some basic tanky items, he was like, Bracer, Ring of Basilius, and then you go for the Midas, you at least have the ability to stand in fights and to be able to hopefully get tower kills, to participate in team fights and survive, and then to sort of build on the advantage that Midas gives you, instead of it being like, well, I'm making this investment and now I'm going to lose for a bit, but eventually it's going to be good. I thought that was really interesting, and I don't know that I've seen too many builds where you like see a drums into Midas, but that's like, I feel like a really strong way to go if you're, in a position where you don't necessarily want to rush the Midas, or you don't feel comfortable rushing the Midas. If you get that first item that's not only giving you as, a carry, semi-carry, it's good general stats to be able to stand in fights, but it's also providing that aura, it's providing the movement speed, something that's going to help you farm anyway, and then building the Midas out of that, you can at least participate, and then, like Hani was saying, you can build on that investment.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The only other time it might not be as useful is if you have a hero that farms neutral creeps and kind of like really like Shadow Fiend or Dragon Knight, or someone that loves the splash, or Anti-Mage, and then you're just stealing his big creeps or whatever. That's where it becomes not as good, but that's not very typical situation. I'd say it's definitely is a positive thing a lot, and this is where I kind of want to just, I think, reiterate. I probably said it earlier, but maybe it was more about the Necro book instead of the Hand Midas. But these items that are just now in every single game on 4+ heroes a game, that's not going to stay around. Valve's obviously monitoring the balance issues with this, and if that's truly an item that continues to be this popular, they're going to tweak it. There's just no way they're going to let it maintain where you really want that on 4+ heroes a game. That doesn't make sense. It's not a balanced item, clearly, if it's that essential, if it's that staple. Boots are like the only item that should be on every hero, not something that generates gold for your team.
Yeah, and I think too that I really appreciated what Kuroki was saying too, where like he's like, yeah, I haven't built any, because like you were saying earlier, he's really trying to think about it, he's really trying to figure it out and make sure it's an investment. But that just sort of gives me some hope that there are people out there just like, yeah, it's not worth it, let's not do it. So that it would almost be nice if you wound up having this, you get to a point where you can say, yeah, Midas strat's good, but you can also not Midas strat. If there are games in a series that you want to mass Midas, sure, why not? And I know one of the things that Kuroki also mentioned in his interview, he had a pretty lengthy one, was about the Navi versus DK series in a previous tournament, in MLG, I believe it was, where Navi had a really hard time engaging DK and finding opportunities to do the Navi hyper aggression. Lots of fights, lots of kills, going under the towers. And he said that, part of that was because of the items that they went. It was the Midases that let them sit back and try to outfarm Navi. It was the Force Staves that helped them move people out of fights if they got ganked. Mm-hmm. And then BKB, I believe Kuroki said they wound up building 3. And it really left Navi in this position where they weren't able to get the fights they wanted to. And that's sort of, I think, just interesting, where you almost sort of have this trio of items that work well in unison. And maybe that instance where I like the Hand of Midas strategy, because if you're like actually building something out of it, of let's super hold back, let's make sure that we can avoid engaging or that we can win engagements because of these items, and then farm up this like high tier item, these high tier goals to try and make the fights late game really hurt. That I think is kind of interesting.
They're game altering items, what you said, pretty much. They really are. They can change the entire wave of fight. A Force Staff out of a huge ultimate or fight after they're CC'd. Getting the Hand of Midas will change the course of your game, the amount of gold, so you can afford more items down the road. Black King Bar, obviously, if you can use it before a ton of magic damage comes out, you're not going to die, whereas you would have gotten blown up originally. I mean, very game-altering items, and I think are pretty much a safe bet on most heroes in a composition. The other ones are way more situational, and you may only want, situational kind of explains itself, but I definitely I like that thought process, and it's good to be aware of that, I suppose. I don't really have much more to say than that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like interesting too if you're like maybe playing on a team where you happen to have like a carry that's, has a Midas and is having trouble getting off the ground. Like that's a good way to even try and think about it in your games is to go, yeah, what kind of items can I build to get them through this period, like the Force Staff or even the mech, making sure you have that because again to Hani's point, you don't want to pass up these early items to try and get that early game advantage because you're going to get punished for it 9 times out of 10.
Well, you need an E-Blade so
Yeah.
you can banish your ally and he's safe from physical damage.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes the most sense to me. I don't know what else you would need to do.
it's perfect. It's the perfect strategy.
Essentially.
I love it, Jay. You just set the new meta game.
Hopefully.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I try to build E-Blades as much as I can, but on a support. But unfortunately, I haven't
You played
got...
Crystal Maiden.
Well, oh my god, Crystal Man with E-Blade. Best ever. Best ever, maybe.
That does sound hilarious. I kind of want to try it now.
The burst ultimate. You never know what's going to happen. You can either one-shot them or do nothing, like the typical ultimate, so really nothing's different. I
Okay,
guess.
listen. Everybody ignore everything we just said. Here's what you do. Jungle Crystal Maiden, Rush Hand of Midas, into E-Blade, and you just roll kids.
And
roll
Aghanim's.
kids.
Or...
You gotta get a Blink Dagger. You gotta get Blink... so you can just go in, you just... you
Blink
freeze in
E-Blade
place.
ult.
Oh.
Done.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially.
That's the good stuff. I'm a little excited now. Anyway.
I've wanted to play Crystal Maiden since the Hand of Midas meta, and I haven't gotten to yet because every time I play with you guys, we have our 2 supports pretty much set in stone. So, not that I know you complain about playing Venomancer elsewhere. Actually, you're almost done, so screw it. I mean, I know as soon as you're done this, you're gonna be like, guys, I'm playing fucking mid or carry. Like, I'm playing Venomancer for 50 games. I don't even care. Like, it's fine. I'm doing it.
I do miss my Phantom Lancer. I do miss my Lone Druid. I'm actually
God.
really... Because this is another thing, too, to come out of the Dreamleague, especially this being so close after MLG. Again, you see a tournament where Clockwork is so heavily favored. And, that's another hero where it's like, yeah, you get to have big team fight initiation. You have the Cogs that just disrupt so much. And then he's, a fairly natural Force Staff hero, too. And like we're just saying, that's a game-changing item. And it's just, when you can get a really strong item on a really strong hero and that works perfectly. I mean, it even has that nice little benefit for Clockwork if you can cog somebody that's so much stronger than you and you just Force Staff yourself out. You're set. I mean, that's like such a nice little strat that works between a great hero and a great item. And I that's probably the hero that, having played all these games with Venomancer, that I'm like, I really kind of want to mess with this guy because I have just seen so much of him in the time that I haven't been messing around with heroes, and he's one that I haven't really lost interest in wanting to play once I come out of this series. That's for true.
He says that now, but
And then I'm gonna throw a game with Clockwork, and I'm never gonna play him again.
basically, yeah, that's how I see it.
For 92 games of Venomancer, the Gale accuracy has not improved much. This is something I can admit. There are some misses. Every once in a while, No Tail just inspires me to miss. But
God.
there are also some 4-man Gales, which are pretty strong. So
4-man Gales into Poison Novas is GG, pretty much.
it is pretty much. So I don't know. Do you wanna talk about this crazy kid Venomancer?
Well, if it's a kid, then sure.
Oh.
I don't think it is,
Weird.
though, generally. I feel like
weird.
it's more of an adult snake thing.
Snake Man.
A snake thingy. Yeah, let's get into them. So 92, you're right on the brink. You're First, let's go down the list. Your win rate.
67%.
67%, folks. In the state of Maryland, he is passing, and that is really good to hear.
Sort of. Kind of. It's a really respectable win rate. It was actually much higher for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that actually before yesterday, I believe I had 78 games played and 18 losses.
Oh,
And
God,
it
are
sort
you
of
doing
fell
math
apart.
here? Oh, okay.
It just no, I'm not. There's 78 games and 22 losses, I think is what I had totaled up, and that was something like a 74%, 72% win rate. I actually, at about 50 games in, I think I had an 80% win rate. It
Jeez.
was pretty good. And, I think that's pretty understandable when you consider what this hero is capable of doing. I mean, we've talked about him a little bit before and what he's been able to do in terms of being a hero that's great in the dual lane. He's a hero that can go middle and win some pretty, or not win, but not lose some pretty hard matchups against particularly Outworld Devourer. He's a hero that doesn't need farm to survive, can die almost instantly in team fight and still contribute.
Right.
And then he's also a hero that can participate in the tri-lane or in a dual lane. He has a lot of different options.
Yeah, he's very versatile, which for any hero is obviously incredibly important. So yeah, that's why I'm not surprised, and he still gets picked. Now, granted, he's not picked as much as what we kind of maybe thought he was going to be. He definitely does, and I think just some teams favor him more than others, for sure. But it doesn't mean he's necessarily going to just fall off again. It just means that maybe they really just want him in certain lineups, and I mean that's fine. It's fine to have heroes in a niche kind of thing. It's not bad that they're not good across the board, because when they're good across the board, that's when you start going to Nerf Town. So it's good to maybe hop off that train a little early and just be good at maybe one or two things instead of everything.
Yeah, I agree, and it's nice too that I think you wind up typically, especially if you're a support Venomancer, you might wind up going the 1-1-3 between Venomous Gale, Poison Sting, and Plague Ward to try and get those wards up, because they are so potent once you get the third and fourth point into them. But having played him in all of the roles, really, there really isn't a terrible way to build him. I mean, you can seriously go for the high early game damage of maxing Gale and Sting and putting off Plague Ward till later, just putting 1 point into it so you can try and extend the range of your...
Alright, why don't you help our viewers here? So, let's say, can you give an example where you'd rather have Gale leveled up over Ward?
I think Gale leveled up over Ward might be a little tough. I definitely see situations where I would put more points in a Poison Sting over Plague Ward, just because it's free damage. Like, you don't have to spend mana for it. It's a strong harassment tool, and because even on your early points in Plague Ward, like, if you're just applying the prioritized Poison Sting to a target, it starts to hurt.
Right.
You're obviously not going to get the push potential with that, but you are able to put up some good harassment. I have played games maxing the Gale and the Sting together when I just want a hyper-aggressive tri-lane, when I want to ensure that I'm going to get kills. Even if they're a team that has some decent ways to get out, Venomous Gale, the duration is crazy long, and it's a slow that goes through BKB. I mean, this is a great hero to go against the Lifestealer, even really early on in the game, because he's one of the few heroes that's going to actually be able to control him in the laning stage if you're able to get the Gale off without the Rage coming on first. As long as you apply the Gale in the first place, it can't be taken off by Magic community. And it's like we were talking about when this hero first came out. Yeah, the first rank doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. Does apply the same amount of slow at all levels, but you can really just deal a ton of damage by putting points in that and Sting.
That's what I was curious about getting it at least to level 2, because obviously, like you said, it has no periodic damage to level 2. It just does the 25 strike damage, and then it's just the slow. Whereas at rank 2, it does the 50, and then 30 over 15 seconds, so that adds an extra 150 damage just from one rank there. So actually, 175 damage if you include the strike, so that's a huge jump in damage for just 1 point in investment. But, it's still, I think we see, and not just what you're saying, but typically they do still go for that Plague Ward leveling up over the second point in Gale earlier on. So is it just because, I mean, you look at Plague Ward, I guess it does get a nice boost in stats as you level it as well. So, I mean, getting that more durable makes it that much easier to push and leave them up to really harass and do what you want with them.
Yeah, I mean, the Plague Wards are great, but they're really awful at ranks 1 and 2. I mean, they're really... Like, now, because of the change to Poison Sting, like, level 1 and 2 Plague Wards are about applying Poison Sting, and that's pretty much it. you can't really just throw them up aggressively because if you're against a range hero or whatever, they can just kill it and get the golden experience pretty easily. But once you get that rank 3 and rank 4 up especially, if you are constantly throwing wards at the creep wave, they have to stop. The enemy hero that is contesting you has to back off. And that's like part of the success, or not success, because it's maybe that's not the strongest word, but the inability to really sort of lose mid badly as Venomancer if your matchup stays one-on-one.
Right.
Because you get to a point, once your early game harassment starts to wear off, you could just either have that hero has to stay there because you're just constantly going to be throwing your creep wave into the tower, or you just get to like sit there and farm up your items. To just sort of, I guess, finish off how I like to level him and skill him up, the one thing that I do find going often on him, if I'm trying to go for that high aggression in the early part of the game, is getting a point into Gale, 2 points into Sting, throwing a second point into the Gale, and then I'll start to prioritize Plague Wards, because it is something that I even like having up. If it's not super early, then I still like to have it up moving into the middle game, so you do have the opportunity to push towers when heroes start moving around.
Yeah, I feel like Poison Sting, I mean, it definitely got buffed ever since they put it on the Plague Wards, but still, it seems like one of those abilities that really is its strongest in the early game to get that harassment damage in. I mean, as you move in later, yeah, it's good, and like I said, now that Plague Wards apply it, you're going to get it on more people, it's going to be more effective, but still, if you don't level it up early, later on it's not going to be nearly as effective because, you're not, the laning phase broke down, and now you're not going to be able to focus one person down, and you can't use all his consumables, that kind of thing. So, like, I guess I can see both arguments for leveling that and Plague Ward. And Plague Ward's obviously going to probably be the most popular just for, we've kind of went over those reasons, but I just feel like Poison Sting has a similar thing to, like, a Crystal Maiden Brilliancer almost, where if you don't get it too much in the early game, it kind of falls off later on.
Yeah, I mean, it helps, I think, keep the Plague Ward damage relevant even when you're like trying to push. Like we talked about when the change was first made, of just the increase in the damage that Poison Sting does over the course of a game because of the fact that the Plague Wards apply it. But yeah, I mean, I think in the professional scene especially, you look at the different builds you go, it's either the maxing the Plague Ward or prioritizing Poison Sting at the early levels, and really just using the ward to make sure that you can keep it on people.
Exactly.
But the really nice thing too, in just if you're looking to play that Venomancer in the middle role, is it's really nice to be able to throw that Gale on somebody, and then the Poison Sting damage is just outrageous. Like, if you get the couple of attacks on them, which you're probably going to be able to do because they're going to try to retreat, you can really put the hurting on somebody. And that's why I really like going for that second point in the Poison Sting by level 3, so that you have this ability to just harass so much more effectively. And then when you do start putting points in the Plague Ward, once you get that like second point in there, you can throw that Plague Ward out. You get a couple of attacks. You put that Sting on the mid hero for a while, and it's hard for them to deal with.
Yeah, definitely a lot of harass there. And as far as skill builds, the final thing, Poison Nova. When does you get it?
When does you? That's really tough.
That's like a Crystal Maiden question right there.
It is, and I think it's actually worse than the Crystal Maiden question, or it's harder to justify getting Poison Nova really early, because at least if you're Crystal Maiden, right, you have your improved Brilliance aura now that gives you some extra regens. You're like, all right, I can throw some spells around, whatever, YOLO. It does a good amount of damage too. The Poison Nova does a ton of damage as well. But especially, I found if I'm that mid Venomancer, my number one priority is getting mech. If you have mech on top of Gale and throwing the Plague Wards, you can't really sustain the Poison Nova mana cost unless you're fighting so often with so many people that you really need that damage out. Because really, like, until you get the Arcane Boots on top of the mech, like, it's just really tough to manage. And that was something even when I was playing in middle, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to go for the Midas first. I'm going to try and just get that advantage rolling up early. Like, you get that, and then you get mech, and then you're just struggling for mana even longer. So I really just kind of came to the conclusion that, if I'm going to be mid Venomancer, I have to get mech early. That has to be my first item to go to, and then after that I have to try to figure out a way to solve my mana problems, because Poison Nova is just so expensive with Gale.
You solve your mana problems by running OD. I mean, that's done and done.
You know what? Instead of Venomancer versus OD in the middle lane, you just dual lane mid with OD and Venomancer.
Support OD, I'm telling you. We were trying that before.
Can we please do that?
Well,
you don't have to do support OD. We just
kind of both sit there.
You just both be there.
Switch, trade last hits. Just your turn. And see how that works out. Probably will.
Can't go wrong.
Except both of them really want levels really badly, so I'm not sure that that's necessarily a great idea. And run Crystal Main in your side lane, and you are just good to go, as far as I'm concerned. But alright, yeah, I mean, I feel like with Veno, and I definitely get your train of thought there. If you're going to go like mech right away, you're probably not going to be able to use something like that very effectively at all. But however, if you're like a support or tri-lane one, Poison Nova definitely can be worth it at level 6. Especially, there's that point in the game, and it's usually around level 6, 7, where a lot of fights in side lanes, because they're starting to push the tier 1s. And if you can have such a crazy good AoE ulti for a team fight, that can definitely change the whole course of the fight. So it obviously is always situational, but I feel like it's definitely can be worth getting a lot earlier.
I'll say that I don't know if I ever get it at 6.
Well, I don't know if you get Crystal Main 1 at level 6. And I know I always get Crystal Main all at level 6. Always, no matter what situation. If I was jungling, I would get it, and I would just stack creeps and ulti. I would find a way to use it no matter how I needed to. But, yeah.
My thing with... I mean, I've just probably played Crystal Maiden so long before it changed that it just hurts to spend that 6 points in the ultimate. But for Venomancer, it's really like... Level 4 Plague Ward is just really good. Like, if you're going that build, I feel like the Plague Ward has to be maxed out. Like, you don't have to prioritize it. Like I was saying earlier, there are games where I'll put points in a Poison Sting, but Plague Ward is always relevant. Like, that's always going to be a really helpful thing. And it's always going to be helpful to have it at a high level. Even if you just ignore the fact that you could spread the Poison Sting, the Plague Ward is great for even just trying to get the creeps to turn in your favor during a fight. Like, it sounds silly, but it's actually really helpful because they do the damage that you don't necessarily get to see through the Dota 2 client. They still do bonus damage to units, but then less damage to buildings. That still persists through Dota 2. They actually do a really good job of keeping whatever ground you're fighting on in your favor as far as creeps are concerned. And if you're sort of in that contested zone, it's actually really nice to have them there to, if not immediately turn the tides, to help put it in your favor.
The only issue I have with what you just said is that at level 6, you can't put that 4th point in yet. So really all you're doing
1, 2, 3
is putting either another point in Venomous Gale or Poison Sting instead of Nova. So I could maybe see an argument for maybe Gale or something over that, but obviously this could be debated all night, and we're not going to. But
I am.
Well, now we're going to do it. So you're wrong. All right, we're done.
Oh,
so
okay. I will say that 9 times out of 10, if I'm playing that support Venomancer, it's 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 4.
1, 2,
and then
4.
you throw 1,
and
2,
then
4.
the Nova.
And then, yeah.
I feel like you should
Unless
really.
It's
I feel like you really should have it by 8. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't have it by 8. Just for that just-in-case situation where you really could change the whole fight if you get in that situation.
I do find it funny, though, that also coming off the Midas mech thing, that I actually like the Midas a lot more on support Venomancer than mid Venomancer. Because it's like, maybe it's just because of the mentality of, if you're middle, you have to impact the game. Like, if you're not making your presence in that middle lane worthwhile at other points in the game, then it's like, we could have had another hero there. We could have had a Shadow Fiend that's just going to be glass cannon. We could have, put a hero there that's going to really change the team fights.
Puck. Yeah, big, huge fights. Right.
Exactly. Not that, just the fact that you're doing damage isn't, like, awesome, but really, you being middle versus you being in a side lane, you're still, like, the same amount of crowd control. You're still, you're just doing more damage, potentially, because you're a higher level. I feel compelled to get the mech first as a middle Venomancer because I'm like, okay, I can take this and then I can push with it. We can team fight more effectively with it, and then I guess you could go a Midas after that. But I'm normally gonna go for something else instead. Whereas if I'm the Venomancer on the side, I'm like, well, I got my mech up still, and then you know what? I'll get the Midas because odds are they're not gonna push me down because I'm Venomancer and I have maxed out wards, so I have this opportunity to safely get a Midas.
No, I absolutely like it on him, and attack speed does benefit him. If he could apply more poison stings to different people, he can. He is an agility hero at heart, so he's gonna do some decent auto attack damage with some attack speed in there. I mean, yeah, not too bad, not too shabby there. Oh my god, what was I about to say? It definitely was about Venomancer.
Oh. Well, I'll say too that as far as the stats go, they're pretty all right. The one thing that hurts is like that 290 movement speed. Obviously, it's because he's pretty strong, but he's a hero that really benefits from that early smoke because being able to roam even like just yourself into the middle lane from the sides, like Gale is just so strong of a slow that it can really make opportunities happen. And if you're also applying the poison sting, like we were saying earlier, that's potentially a lot of damage that you can put onto somebody. And if you have help from another mid hero, like that could be a really nice pickup kill and really help secure that middle lane for your team.
Definitely. And I figured out what I was going to say.
There
was two things I just found out that I didn't know before. So I'd like to share with the group because they may not as well.
For learning.
It's great to learn. Thank you. So, what was I going to say? Hold on, no. So, for Venus Gale, obviously well, I'm not saying obviously you could be aware that since it is a damage over time effect, that your teammates can be, or the teammates can be denied when it's applied to them. However, the first rank doesn't have a damage over time component. So, logic dictates that you wouldn't be able to deny. However, if it's applied without the damage over time effect at that rank 1, you can still deny the teammate, which I never knew. So that's a cool fact. Also, with the Poison Nova, do I want to talk about the Poison Nova?
Did you?
Is that what I was trying to talk about?
I don't know.
Oh, yes. I should really write it down when I think about it. No, it's so much better. This is much more natural and fluid. So when it's applied to you, generally heroes will like to BKB, to ignore the damage. I thought personally that removed the debuff. However, does not. All it does is block the damage, but does not remove it. So therefore, at the last rank, for example, it's 15 seconds. So that BKB, getting down time, really actually not that effective against this ult in particular. I mean, as long as they can apply it initially, that's what's most important. It's kind of like the Gale, like you're saying. And I kind of like how this hero is working, and now it's making me like him that much more, because all his spells still affect the heroes in some way, even despite Magic Immunity. I thought initially Magic Immunity this hero's done. Like, once you get BKB, forget it. There's no point even playing him. It's just go in the corner. But no, that's not true. Especially the Nova, which makes me value. I remember complaining about this to you in the DK versus Speed Gaming when they ran that mid Veno on Mushi, and he went to Aghanims. And I'm like, the other team's building 2 or 3 BKBs. Why would you possibly go Aghanims? They're just going to BKB it off, and they're done. Well, now we know. The extra duration from 1 second, and those late game BKBs are only going to stop maybe 2 ticks at the most, 1 or 2 ticks, and you still get plenty of that extra damage in there during the fight. So, really effective throughout the game.
Yeah, I mean, the The Venomancer Ognims is like an interesting one because I feel like it's one where you go, does it really, is it worth getting that versus like even a Veil of Discord, like something that's going to increase the damage anyway, but might also potentially help other people. But it is a nice item on the Venomancer for no other reason than reducing the cooldown pretty dramatically if you get it early enough. And then also, like you're saying, the damage per second gets increased, the duration gets increased. It really is a hefty chunk of damage. Of course, it's not lethal. You have to have Poison Sting or Gale on somebody if you're going to try and kill him with the Poison Nova's help. But it's a ton of damage over time, and I don't think I've seen any games in the pro scene taking advantage of the Poison Nova and the Warlock bindings together in a while. But that is definitely a combination that can cause some havoc. It was probably the last time that we actually saw Venomancer being like sort of a flavor pick when combined with that.
Dude, that is brutal amounts of damage. You catch people in a Roshan pit with just those two heroes, you've won the fight. It doesn't matter what the rest of your team does, frankly. So, yeah, then again, Warlock's just a pain in the ass, anyways. In general, I am so glad he's not in the meta. Actually, I don't mind watching him. I hate playing against him. So I guess that's how I want to put it. So as long as people don't make him popular in pubs, I'll be good. I can handle Clinks now, but as long as we don't get to the Warlock stage again, I'll be fine.
I do like the upheaval buff. I mean, maybe we're moving away from Venomancer too much, but I do enjoy that. That's definitely a hero that I want to play some more once I get out of my Venomancer game. I got 8 left. That's about a week, maybe.
You're so close.
I could probably do that in a week
You're
if I'm
so
not
close.
super busy. It's good. I will say that I was getting tired about 20 games in. But it's been a treat, and especially because that's a hero that can do so many different things, can be built different ways. The other items that I've really enjoyed getting on him were, of course, the Necro Book. I feel like a lot of the games where I wound up going on the winning sprees. I mean, I had some of the pages in my history that were out of 13 games played, 2 of them were losses. 3 of them were losses. Back when my win rate was like 80%, it really was like building out of this mech Necrobook lineup and just being able to brute force down the enemy team because you're so prevalent in the early game, you're so prevalent in the mid game, and then you're just building on that with these 2 items is really nice. And I think the other one that I actually really enjoyed going was the Lincoln Sphere, especially now because you can use it on somebody else. It's a really nice item, and you can't really get a Venomancer to transition in the late game really well. But you can really make the mid game hurt for the other team if you build them right.
Oh yeah, and Necrobook I think it's one of the strongest items for him in general, just for the fact that you're taking advantage of the fact that he's a strong pusher, and now you're just adding to that effect. You're doing more sources of damage from the fight than you already were doing. We kind of broke that up a bit about how Necro just has become this item that's even Lotus said it right, kind of just so relevant that you can't ignore it. While it's not nerfed, which I also was afraid of, and I forewarned as a prophet that I am, I guess, that the nerf is coming for that item, believe it. But for now, since it's so amazing and in the game, well, it's probably always going to be in the game, but you know what I mean. Definitely you should take reins of that. I like the Lincoln's idea, too. And, he obviously... enough Gales and Poison Novas into the fight, you're going to be out of mana. And while you said, earlier that, yes, he can go in there, drop Nova, Gale, die. I mean, he doesn't have to be around in the fight. That makes him more of a nuisance throughout the fight. You're right. You've given him new life, kind of. Something else that he can bring to the table besides just his 2 spells. Yeah.
I mean, the items that I haven't messed with that I probably would want to mess with more... Orchid. I have done a little bit with Yules. Medallion's a pretty interesting one as well. I've built Vlad's probably more often than you would think as a Venomancer, but it's nice even just getting the little bit of an increase in the mana regeneration from just the standard Ring of Basilius, bringing it up to the Vlad's, and then you're, of course, providing a % damage bonus to your team, as well as, to your creeps to be able to apply that push potential. You know what? Shiva's Guard. I haven't built that yet, and that probably should happen, right? Like, that sounds like a lot of fun. gonna have
Shiva's
to do that.
Guard is a great idea, actually.
Blink Shiva's Guard, Jay. That's it. That's the next game.
I always struggle with Shiva's Guard, in my mind. The reason I do, I feel like when you get that Mystic Staff, I just value Sheepstick so much more in general, because I feel like locking down a carry or some other hero could be so much better than just AoE slow and damage. And especially with the support, getting armor is like, meh. Like, if you die, you die. Like, it's more important, I think. But, you know, that's why I've always struggled. Just, like, I've already got one of the biggest component for the Sheepstick. Why am I not more just going right towards this, maybe possibly much more useful item? But I could definitely see where the Shivas can come into play.
Yeah, the other one that's like, if I wind up going the middle and I like to try to transition or pretend to into the late game, is the Manta style, because your illusions do propagate Poison Sting, which is very nice. And, you know, if you have the control to be able to split that up, that can be really useful. And it just helps your push in general, too, having those illusions and being able to throw them at, you know, building or the creep wave.
Yeah, Manta's a good item on him. I also would agree with that. Do you know his real full name?
LaSalle Deathbringer.
Someone
Because
has
I'm
their
looking
Dota
at
2
it.
wiki open.
Well,
I was not
site.
aware of that being his name, but that's it's pretty interesting.
I do miss the Hydralisk. Can I say that? I do miss him being a Hydralisk.
Well,
So very
he's
much
become much more. It's like that was like his Charmander phase, and now he's become Charizard, and he's evolved into this crazy beast.
He does. Now that I've had the time to really soak it in, I'm really digging the new skin. I gotta say.
Like I said, it grew.
Very
Yeah, it
handsome.
grew on me too. It's definitely a work of art, and they're apparently doing even more visual upgrades, and they're going to continue to do things like that on heroes throughout, which is really exciting to hear. You know, it's always nice to see that they want to go back and touch up things they weren't happy with initially. You know, that's always a positive, obviously.
So, Jay, what is your hero going to be that you play 100 games in a row on?
Well, I will. There'll probably be Dota 3 before I finish that.
Oh.
But oh, great! That's a question you definitely want to ask on the spot.
Yeah.
Because you know, why would you ever prepare for such a question?
It's got to be organic and free, Jay. You don't think about these decisions and commit to.
I have already a few ideas, and maybe I'll either get you to help me, or I could get viewers to help me make the final decision. Which I'm kind of liking that. Actually, it's kind of scary to leave it up in their hands. But
true.
if I put the constraints on it, I feel like at least I have a chance to not be screwed over.
Let's do this, Jay.
Okay.
Let's do this. 25 games. Can
That
you
sounds
commit 25 games?
I think that's way more reasonable to ask of me than 100. Yes.
Especially if the viewers get to pick, because
Oh, no. Hold on. I'm not saying they get to just pick. We're going to put constraints on this thing.
Oh,
If
no fun.
they're going to pick Meepo, you know that's the go-to. Like, I've explained to you maybe off the air more than on the air, but I don't play micro heroes. And it's not because I'm afraid to micro. It's because the way my keyboard is set up, I don't have easy access to control groups. So I do way better on one hero than I do on multiple heroes.
And J4Y does not like change. And
I
cannot.
absolutely despise it. I'm sorry, I probably didn't vote for Obama. That's just the way it is. So, you know, change is not for me here. But, okay, sorry to get a political reference in there. Anyways. Yeah, so maybe some constraints here. Maybe I could limit it to 3, and they could go.
Ooh, do you do a strength, an agility, and an int?
That sounds reasonable. That sounds very reasonable.
Let's do it. This is a pretty chill episode. Let's take some time. Let's consider
let's break this down a bit. So I think my first criteria of this hero has to be they can go in more than one position. You can't
reasonable.
Not just middle, etc. So that we can eliminate some off the bat there.
I like them flexible too. What?
You like him flexible? Oh, them. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Me too. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, heroes.
Yeah.
Something like that. Strength. My initial leaning was Clockwork. That was my initial leaning. I love the hero, despite my record being 3-8 overall with him.
Oh. Sounds like you might need the 25 games of practice.
Yeah, probably. But I've pretty much every single game played him solo off lane, which he usually doesn't win anyways. He usually just does okay. It depends. If you get a one-on-one matchup, then yeah, that can go completely different. But in a pub, how often does that happen? But we're also obviously going to avoid probably hard carries for the most part here, since it's not very adaptable. I mean, yes, sometimes.
Huskar? Like, come on.
We are definitely not going with the Huskar here.
I'm just saying, Jay, there was a time when you played a carry Omni Knight in another life with Blink Dagger. Okay?
It was a miraculous build I pulled off there. The Blink heal, just no one could see it coming. It really was a work of art.
You just go Blink Dagger, Degenera, stats.
Yeah, that's essentially it. I was also considering... See, I'm not going to do Earth Spirit. He's too new to me. I like him, but I don't think 25 games is going to go well for me. Although by the end of it, maybe I could play him half decently, but that's asking a lot. So
You gotta pick Lycan so you can get trolled thoroughly.
Jeez. No, everyone will just be pissed at me. And I'm gonna block my own hero with my wolves. It's just gonna go, and that's a micro hero, may I add. I'm taking that off the table just for that reason alone. So right now it's kind of leaning on Clockwork. I'm not sure about a second option. I could go Sand King perhaps, but
just to help No Tail.
Just to help No Tail feel better about himself with my extreme amount of misses on the stun.
It's like, at least I'm not that guy. Oh
god, that guy's just terrible.
I actually really like Undying, and I miss him. I miss him dearly. I miss him so much, Jay.
I hate him. Oh. I don't hate playing him. I hate he's like a warlock to me. He's like a warlock to me. Like, that tombstone is the most infuriating thing, especially when your teammates ignore it, and you're like, excuse me, we're all going to die to this army of zombies. Haven't you watched The Walking Dead? Everyone dies unless you kill the tombstone.
I actually will say, to go back a step, Venomancer is hilarious against Undying, because the wards will shoot the zombies.
Ooh, free money.
Which is very nice. It's a decent, like, in fights, because you're just like, you have something that's taking care of the zombies actively. It's actually quite nice. I appreciate it greatly. It's not like
counter.
A hard counter to Undying, but it's appreciated, let me tell you. You could just go Tusk. That's what you should do.
Tusk, I was kind of thinking, because he can go all three lanes, pretty much.
And it's a little trolly. I think these all have to be a little trolly.
Oh, well, probably. I don't see how I could not be.
Alright, Tusk, done. And...
Well, that was quick.
Agility is Meepo. And the...
We know that's not the case. Well, since I said I wanted to be versatile, most of these are not. So...
Vengeful Spirit.
I'm thinking Mirana is...
Yeah, but you would enjoy that too much.
I would love that. Oh my god. Well, and you didn't enjoy Venomancer. Excuse me. Why do I have to be upset with my 25 games? Can't I play a hero I like a little bit?
Because it's not me, so...
It could be Weaver. Could be Weaver.
That's not very versatile, but...
he wins games, so that doesn't matter. Support Weaver. Good god. Yeah, max out your Swarm and just apply it to everyone with the Midas armor. That's the
Swarm Geminate.
I have played a mid Spectre, so I'm just saying, and I won very well in that game. But that's probably not
all skill.
Definitely all skill. You know, I should just pick Venomancer.
Yeah, why not? I think your int is already decided for you.
That sounds scary.
Yeah. Would you like to take a stab in the dark?
Wait, is this someone I like?
Maybe.
Is it Crystal Maiden?
No.
Damn it! Who is it?
Although you could do that. I was thinking Dazzle.
Ooh, you know what? I do like
later.
Dazzle. I do like Dazzle, actually. I've wanted to play him recently. I don't know about 25 games, but I wanted to play him recently.
I think you do it.
You know what? Dazzle's not a bad choice.
And you know I'm not going to be playing support for, like, ever now.
I mean, I would be confined basically to the support role, but that's not a bad thing. I mean...
Dazzlator. Oh,
that's true. Go hand of Midas into Dazzlator, you're done. Oh my god, fast minus armor attacks? Forget it. They have no chance.
And then Assault Curious.
Okay, it's
What
Dazzle.
do they do?
Dazzle's the int. That was easy. You're right.
So,
that was skip
alright.
ahead too.
Well, this is great. So we got Tusk, Dazzle, and we just need to
God.
find you an agility.
Well, I have played support Viper once.
Yeah.
We're not doing that though. For the safety, I mean, I could go someone like Vengeful, but I mean, that's not.
Vengeful's kind of fun.
Vengeful's kind of like a box. Like he's in a box. She's in a box. Like
I don't know what that means at all.
like I don't either. But honestly, I feel like what it should mean is that it's pretty rigid the way you're gonna play her, for the most part. I mean,
Blink Dagger.
Blink Dagger, yeah, the new allow Blink Dagger. Right.
Oh, Jay, no, you're all wrong, son. You didn't even
Son.
think this through. You build her like Andromeda. You max Wave of Terror.
Oh God.
You could do Blink Dagger Vengeful Spirit. You could do Aghanim's Vengeful Spirit. You could do
E-Blade?
like hard carry.
Well, obviously E-Blade, but
E-Blade, yes. You just Oh, man.
well, it's between Vengeful and anyone else. So
and anyone else.
or Mirana. One of those two, I'd say, would be probably the safest bets to go.
We'll take it easy on you.
thing
Well,
with-
here we go, viewers. Please, all of you. The choices are, to reiterate, Tusk. We have Vengeful Spirit, Mirana, and Dazzle.
Yeah, four choices.
Yeah, so we even throw you get the bonus choice, Jay. That's
Sweet.
just
Lucky
it's like
me.
the Black Friday deal. You got it all this time, man. So yeah, guys, please stop by our Twitters, the Dodo on Demand Facebook. Leave your comments in the video for whatever you want to see Jay play 25 PM. I'm like stoked. I'm like, that's pretty good.
I want to see a
This will
big
be
turnout
fun.
for this. I want to see.
I
I want to see him come out of the woodwork for this vote. And
do
I
too.
have a feeling it's gonna be Tusk, and I'm very scared about that. But guys, don't even take what I just said. I shouldn't even said that. But honestly, think about what heroes you like and what you would imagine us having a great time with. Like, would you rather me talk about how I can't hit like a glacier throw thing on heroes and I Wallace punch creeps every fight, or would you rather hear me about going armor penetration dazzle? Or I mean, there's so many other options here. I'm just saying. Think about it long and hard before you make this choice.
Yes. We also there are like viewers doing the A to Z challenge and doing some other fun stuff alongside us, and we appreciate you guys tuning in and also participating in some of these pub shenanigans while also hopefully taking in some of the pro games.
Oh, I also want to say, sorry to interrupt. Someone asked on, I believe it might have been our Facebook. I think it was Joe Stravis or something. Sorry if I think that's your name. But he basically asked, like, how do I get involved on this Dota by Candlelight team, or getting on one of the 100 Veno games, etc., or even one of my 25? You can add us on Steam. I don't know how to make that info public to you guys, but can they just search us, like J4Y? I'm pretty sure you can just search, like, J4Y or BDL. We're the ones with our Dota on Demand Steam pictures, so we're pretty obvious.
If you want to give them your social security number, they might be able to find you that way too.
All right, my
That's an
credit
option.
card, social security, and well, that's all I
A
have.
list of all your fears.
Tusk. Done. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Add us. We'd love to talk to you guys, and like you're saying, our Facebook's a great place to drop by and get a hold of us. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I have enjoyed doing the Venomancer challenge for the sake of making it public spectacle. I know Jay is gonna enjoy whichever hero you
won't
guys
I?
pick for him. So please put in your submissions this week for what Jay gets to suffer through. Hope you guys out there are not only enjoying your own challenges, but there are also some great tournaments coming up. Starlighters in full swing. The G League actually starts up on the 9th, I believe, which is next Monday. And there's also the ESL finals, which are coming up. So there's a lot of great Dota out there to watch. Go out there, guys. Watch it. Enjoy it. Tell us what you think about some of the heroes, some of the item choices, and of course tell us how you guys are doing with all of your pub shenanigans. We will see you all next week.